few more families log on, and then we'll start our webinar. All right, very good. Well, I would like to welcome all of our guests this evening and welcome you to our last family webinar of the summer. This is our 5th one, and this evening we have a lot of guests from different areas on campus, and in just a moment I will have them introduce themselves. But I am going to start off with a few logistics. Again, welcome. I've met some of you via this screen a few times now, and my name is Linda Bachman. I serve as Dean of Students at St. Thomas. And I want to remind you this evening that you are able to see all of us, but know that we cannot see you. So if it's family dinner time or whatever else may be happening in your home, we can't see what's happening there. And we want to also let you know we've saved time tonight after each of our panelists talks, and we have Q&A, question and answer, set aside. So I would ask you to consider holding off on submitting some of your questions until you've had a chance to hear from the panelists. Likely quite a few of your questions will get answered as we move through the evening. And when we do get to that question and answer time, I'm going to ask you all to please use the question and answer function at the bottom of your screen. We ask that you use that and not the chat function. So the Q&A is where you'll go later on to put in any questions you may have. And with that, I would like to introduce, we're going to start with introductions, and we're really thrilled this evening that President Sullivan is able to join us. So we'll start with President Sullivan.
Thank you, Linda. I'm Julie Sullivan, and I am beginning my 8th year as the president at the University of St. Thomas.
Good evening. I'm Father Blake, University Chaplain, Director of Campus Ministry here at the University of St. Thomas for the last 4 years.
Good evening. My name is Leah Fulton, and I serve as an Assistant Dean of Students as well as Parent Liaison here at University of St. Thomas, and I've been here for about 1.5 years now.
Buenas tardes. My name is Patricia Conter Brooks. I'm the Executive Director of Student Engagement and Inclusion, and I've been part of the St. Thomas community for the last 15 years.
Good evening, I'm Madonna McDermott. I'm the Executive Director for the Center for Wellbeing, and I've been a St. Thomas community member for 20 years.
Hi everyone, my name is Jesse Langer. I am an Assistant Dean of Students, and I have worked at St. Thomas for 14 years.
Thanks, Jesse. So this evening, you probably noted in our invitation to you that we want to talk with you all about our convictions at the University of St. Thomas. And this is an opportunity for us to talk with you about the work our different units do and how we support your students in their journeys at St. Thomas. We like to talk with families about that work. We like to frame it with our convictions. The convictions are something that we consider to be guideposts at St. Thomas, and we turn to them often. Your students will hear the convictions as they move through St. Thomas. They'll hear it in their class. They'll hear about the convictions at faith celebrations, and they'll hear about them as they're in one-to-one conversations with faculty and staff. So it's also a chance for us to talk with you about how we can partner with you as families, as parents and loved ones, how we can work together to support your students in their time. So you'll hear us talking about how we partner together this evening also. And to get us started, I would like to invite Julie Sullivan to give us an introduction, and she's gonna do a welcome with some talks about our convictions.
Thank you. And welcome again to tonight's webinar and to the St. Thomas parent family. We have been planning for months, and we are day by day get even more excited to welcome your student to St. Thomas. Tonight, I am delighted that this webinar is centered on our convictions. You see, many things have changed in our world. Many things have changed at St. Thomas. Many things have changed around the health and safety protocols that we all must follow to protect ourselves and to protect each other. But the most important things at St. Thomas have not changed. And our convictions are one of those most important things. They reflect our values, they shape our culture, and they guide how we live and learn at St. Thomas. And tonight, I'd like to speak just briefly about 3 of these convictions: academic excellence, dignity, and diversity. And I speak about these 3 because they're interrelated. I also speak about these 3 because they really rest on the foundation of our Catholic mission and traditions. You see, the fundamental principle of Catholic social thought is a recognition that every human is a unique and divine creation of God. And we are all called to respect and promote the dignity of every human person. And this is reflected in these convictions. We embrace our common humanity. We recognize the sin associated with systems that foster the dominance of some humans over others. We affirm the God-given talents of all, and we advance the common good so that all can fully flourish and experience equity, justice, and have the opportunity to become their best selves. We recognize that no one has humanity until we all have humanity. And we seek to become a more diverse community on all dimensions, and certainly a more inclusive community. A community where we can learn to live out these ideals, these convictions, as they apply to all of us. In 2018, in the fall of 2018, we experienced a significant racial incident on campus. And in response, we developed an action plan to combat racism. And that action plan will be 2 years old as of this November. And we've accomplished much. We made great strides on a number of fronts. You'll hear about some of them from other speakers tonight too. But we've instituted mandatory anti-bias training. We've really increased the ease and transparency of our bias incident and hate crime reporting. We've increased our mental health and trauma resources. We've opened a new multicultural center. We have robust educational discussions in and out of the classroom around issues of dignity and diversity and racism. We strengthened our admissions and financial aid processes to eliminate financial and other barriers for those who would otherwise flourish at St. Thomas. And we've become a more racially diverse community in terms of our students, faculty, and staff. But the context has changed. In the current context of the racial justice awakening within our entire country, and certainly within our community, where we witnessed the murder of George Floyd, we're called to go beyond the initial action stated in our action plan. And we're currently reassessing and updating that plan because we recognize that now we must, all of us, develop and provide our students the opportunity to develop a deeper and broader understanding of our country's history and how racism has been institutionalized and become a part of the fabric of our culture, of our organizations, and of our systems, our education systems, our health systems, our political systems, our justice systems, our legal systems. And we also recognize our individual responsibilities to undertake the long and hard work it takes to dismantle racism. And so we are adding these many opportunities for our faculty, staff, and students. We're already undertaking many opportunities to gain this deeper understanding and to get on the collective journey of dismantling racism within St. Thomas, our community, and our country. How does academic excellence relate to all of this? Well, clearly part of academic excellence is that our students have a relevant education, which means that they have the skills to work in a diverse environment. It also means that they have the skills that are relevant to the most important professions of today, skills that reflect how those professions operate today. And our faculty take great pride in staying close to those who work in businesses and in the community in their disciplines so that they know what the most up-to-date skills and knowledge are that our students need. And finally, academic excellence, like our dignity and diversity convictions, is about personalization. We deliver a very personalized education. We make a personal investment in every student. And we believe every student at St. Thomas can be successful. Our faculty will get to know your students. Our staff will get to know your students. They'll get to know them personally. And they'll help them on their journey to discern their own career path. They'll help them provide the skills and knowledge that they will need to succeed. But maybe even more importantly, they'll help them become their best selves. And finally, they'll help them find those opportunities post St. Thomas where they can be their best selves. So again, thank you for being with us tonight. I look forward to your questions later.
Thank you, President Sullivan. And I just want to let you all know you'll see our panelists turning their cameras off as we move through, but know that everybody is still on the webinar and will join us at the end for our Q&A session. So again, thank you, Dr. Sullivan. And we are going to move on to Father Lawrence Blake now. And Father Larry is our campus chaplain.
Well, thank you, Linda. And I want to say how excited I am to be with you, all of you tonight, and how excited we are to look forward to welcoming your students here on campus. We've been waiting for them all summer long and making preparations to receive them here. So, on top of that, we are in a brand new building that I hope they will take time to walk through on their way from the dorm to the classes. We're in the brand new Iverson Center for Faith. So we are very excited, and we know that these are times of growth and formation for all of our students as they grow mentally, as they grow physically and academically and spiritually as well. As an office within a Catholic university, our mission is to serve the spiritual needs of all of our students. And while the majority of our staff are faithful Catholics and live out their faith daily, we do also have a very active interfaith ministry made up of 3 associate chaplains. I'd like to tell you a little bit about each of them here this evening. We have a Presbyterian pastor who is Egyptian born, Reverend Medhat Joachim. He works with our students who are Christian but not Catholic. We have a rabbi, Rabbi Amy Ariel, who works with our Jewish students and makes herself available to those wishing to understand more about the Jewish faith. And we also have Dr. Sadaf Shire, a Muslim chaplain born in Pakistan who recently earned her doctorate's degree at the University of Minnesota in the field of education. Together, we serve the needs of so many students seeking guidance and direction for their young lives. Trust us when we say that wherever your young person is in their spiritual quest and in their faith journey, there is really something here for them at Campus Ministry. We are diverse, we are inclusive, we are ecumenical, and we are an interfaith ministry striving to meet the needs of all of our students regardless of their faith. And let me say also that personal attention is a big part of what we do here at Campus Ministry. On a weekly basis, we have students who come into our office seeking some guidance for their lives. They may meet with one of our priests, they may meet with one of our other professional staff members. Sometimes they come just to find a quiet place where they can sit, to read, to study, before they go on to their next class. But personal attention is a very large part of what we offer here at the university. We hope that you will encourage your students to seek us out when they arrive here in a very few short weeks. Thank you, and I'd like to introduce now our Assistant Dean, Leah Fulton.
Thank you so much. Again, my name is Leah Fulton, and I work with Linda in the Dean of Students office. And my primary work is really centered around what we call our care team. And the care team is really focused on supporting students who are experiencing extenuating circumstances. So if we were together, here's what I would do. I'd step down off the stage and I would say that I believe that each of you, all 159 of you, have a vision for who you hope your student will be when they graduate from the University of St. Thomas. And I'd ask you for some adjectives to describe the people you hope your students will be. And since I can't get your feedback in this moment, I'm going to give you some of the words that I've heard in the past. I've heard independent, I've heard happy, I've heard employed, I've heard fulfilled, I've heard service-oriented, I've heard a number of adjectives that really speak to the kinds of qualities that parents hope to see and families hope to see cultivate in their students. And the truth is they've got visions for themselves as well about who they will be and what they will be able to do. And my work with the care team is positioned to support students who experience challenges that threaten that vision. And our work is really focused on turning potential roadblocks into stepping stones. And so as we talk about this commitment to student development and success, it's really around this idea of growth and challenge, and saying that we know part of growth may come with challenge, but we leverage those opportunities as opportunities to pursue success. And so in relation to student development in particular, one of the things that's incredibly important is regarding students from an asset perspective. And so saying from a strengths perspective is another way to think about it, is to say, we believe that you have the skill and ability and knowledge to contribute to your success, and we want to partner with you in this. I don't want to tell you what to do or how to do it. I want to be a partner to you. And so that's how I see my role with students and with parents and families. Now, you might be wondering what kinds of challenges lead students to engage with the care team. Sometimes we see students who maybe had a 504 or IEP in high school and hoped to, give it a go without that, and realize that maybe they really could benefit from working with disability resources. Sometimes students realize that the curve in terms of expectations in college in comparison to high school is a bit more of is a steeper curve than they'd hoped for and may need some guidance. There may be unexpected financial challenges, circumstances in your families and communities that take an emotional toll on students, but my role is to connect with those students, understand what it is that needs to happen to mitigate those challenges, connect them with the right resources across campus to work that out, and to be able to follow up so that they can move forward on their own. There are times when students, despite, who doesn't want to be cared for, right? That sounds like a really good thing. There are times where students can be overcome with shame, with grief, with embarrassment, and a whole other host of legitimate emotions that can make it challenging for them to be responsive to myself or another care team member reaching out. And depending on the nature of the concern, if students are not responsive, that you may see me show up in my role as parent liaison. And so in select circumstances, I will reach out to an emergency contact to get support with meeting the needs of your student. Again, I regard this as a partnership. It's really important for me, one, to be driven by these convictions of personal attention and dignity. So I try and be really clear with students that I'm not I'm not sharing with anyone what's happening apart from who needs to know. And I'm oftentimes asking first for their permission to engage people who I think could be good resources. I'm also my work is informed by FERPA. And so I get referrals from parents and families, sometimes by phone or by email, rarely in person, expressing concerns about a student. And if I don't have a FERPA release, I'm not able to share details. But what I can tell you is anytime a name comes to our attention, we do our due diligence to follow up and to find out if what's happening and if there are other ways that we can offer support. But we also encourage parents and families to connect with their students. And this year, we're really excited that we've been able to develop a new resource to help support that. And so if you have a chance, you'll notice this slide here is the cover of a new resource called Supporting Your Students Through Their College Years. And so we have developed content specific to the University of St. Thomas around some of the conversations that may be difficult to have with your student, but that are incredibly important to have. So we offer conversation starters and a number of other resources in this publication. So we hope that you'll take the time to visit the webpage where you'll be able to access it. I also want to encourage you, I also want you to know that you can anticipate being signed up, being subscribed to our parent newsletter, and it's a monthly publication that will give you timely insights about how you can support your student to engage in the really valuable services and resources that will be available to them across campus, largely virtually throughout this coming year. So those are some of the really key pieces there. If you ever have concerns about your student, you're not sure what to do or where to start, you can start with me. And I oftentimes operate as a hub to get you to the right people and right places so that in 4 years, when your student is ready to graduate, we've been able to navigate those potential roadblocks and really see them as stepping stones. And I am going to introduce you now to my colleague, Dr. Patricia Conde Brooks.
Thank you, Leah. So tonight, what I was asked to speak about was specifically on our diversity conviction. That I wanted to frame that diversity conviction about the work that we do here at St. Thomas to be a more just and inclusive society, because it's about doing the work. So I think about the roots of St. Thomas. St. Thomas was founded by Archbishop Ireland in 1885, and at the time it was founded to be a university for the Irish immigrants. You see, the Irish at the time were considered to be the other. They were the members of our society at the time that didn't have access to education, that were underrepresented, and that had challenges. And Archbishop Ireland started the University of St. Thomas, and he welcomed them. He welcomed the stranger, he welcomed the other. And many, many years, hundreds of years later, the University of St. Thomas still remains that place. It still remains the place that opens its door to students, opens its doors to those in our society, and offers an opportunity for to educate all of us that come into our society, and through our doors and comes through our arches, as I have in my background tonight. One of the offices that I work with in specifically doing diversity work in the student side of the house is our Student Diversity and Inclusion Services Office. And our Student Diversity and Inclusion Offices looks at diversity, and we expand diversity. We look at diversity to be more than just racial diversity. We're talking about diversity of ethnicity, generational, social, economical, gender identity, geographic, physical ability, and we like to think of all of these differences coming to our campus and enriching our education. And specifically, when we work with our students outside of the classroom, we're looking at 4 pillars. One of them is our education. We provide educational opportunities for students around diversity, equity, and inclusion outside of the classroom. As President Sullivan spoke a few minutes ago, we bring in speakers. We bring in national speakers to come in and have conversations and present to the students. We're actually working on possibly bring in Abraham Kenty, who wrote the book How to Be an Anti-Racist. We're hoping that he can come to our campus in the spring. We work with our faculty members in doing teach-ins. And teach-ins are opportunities where we, outside of the classroom, sometimes have enriching and sometimes difficult conversations. We have talked about topics such as Colin Kaepernick. Should he have taken a knee or not? That is an issue that we're talking about in society. It's an issue that we're talking about in college campus. But when we do this, we try to do this through a lens of modeling for students to have respectful dialogues, to be able to listen to each other and to grow from those experiences of having those educational experiences outside the classroom. We also work with students through leadership development. We specifically have our Inclusive Leadership Collaboratory, which is a small center that we have created in the university where we bring many of our student leaders and we bring topics around inclusive leadership. We know that our students will be going out to the world of work and working in very diverse environments and very diverse teams. And actually, it's one of my favorite areas. My research focuses on your identity and what your identity says about leadership and how we lead each other based on our cultural backgrounds. So we work with the students so that they can learn what it's like to lead diverse teams. We help them mitigate differences and challenges that we might have when we're working together. And we're developing these inclusive leaders that will go forth and work with in very diverse and global teams. We also do advocacy. As President Sullivan says, we are increasing the numbers of our students of underrepresented communities, but we remain a predominantly white campus at St. Thomas. And as sadly as she shared with us, we have had racial incidents in campus, and we find ourselves under, just like our society does, under some tensions. But we will work with students to advocate for the students. We have the backbone of our anti-racism plan that allows us to provide services for the students, that allows us to advocate and to let people know that we will treat each other with respect and that we will not tolerate the behavior at St. Thomas. It doesn't make everyone, a single one of our students, faculty or staff feel welcome on campus. But we will work with the students to have a culture of calling in instead of calling out. We're specifically going to be working this year around doing training and workshops where we do not engage so much in a culture of canceling out. I don't know if you are familiar with the cancel culture, but a culture that actually brings us all forward to have some meaningful and rich dialogue so that we can listen and learn from each other, and that we can do such in a manner that's respectful, that advocates and provides dignity. And lastly, we also do a community, and community is our celebration of our differences. We have many multicultural clubs on campus, and all of these multicultural clubs hold great cultural dinners. We celebrate a Hmong New Year. The Latino community does Nuestra Noche. We have our Black Excellent Gala every year. International dinner has been going on our campus for over 30 summer years, and we just celebrate with each other, and we learn from each other about our different cultures and our different individuals that are here on our campus. And so it's an opportunity for us to come together and build community. And those are some of the things that Student Diversity and Inclusion Services works on, along with many of our campus community across campus, to continue to grow in diversity, equity, and inclusion. But as I'm finishing my remarks right now, I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for having your student become a part of the University of St. Thomas. Every single one of us brings in a diversity to our campus, a diversity that will provide us all a much better education and a richer experience. So I want to thank you for having made that choice and welcome you. Bienvenidos a la Universidad de St. Thomas. And now I'd like to introduce our Executive Director for the Center of Wellbeing, Madonna McDermott.
Thanks, Patricia. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you, even though I can't see you, so I'm hoping you're having a good evening. I wanted to speak to the conviction of personal attention. The Center for Wellbeing is dedicated to providing personal attention to your student. Our center provides students with a newly integrated holistic care model that brings together a multidisciplinary team, sharing the same physical working space, collaborating to deliver a coordinated plan of care and education to your student. This is a new center. We've just integrated we actually moved in January, had the grand opening in February, and then I think went to online in March. So we're looking forward to getting back to a more normal routine. We're located in a beautiful new building between Summit and Grand on Finn. Our partner areas include health services, which is the medical clinic, counseling services, our mental health clinic, and health promotion and violence prevention. Our mission is to enhance a healthy campus culture through collaboration, comprehensive prevention education, and compassionate care that promotes lifelong well-being. We support the well-being of every student. Health and well-being, whether that's physical, emotional, intellectual, or spiritual, is a prerequisite for academic success and lifelong learning. At St. Thomas, this occurs through intentional collaborative practice. We wanted to decrease the fragmentation of care and enhance the level of care by working together. And this happens through a number of different disciplines: psychologists, medical providers, health promotion specialists, is through health education, promotion, and violence prevention, and through the delivery of compassionate physical, emotional, and spiritual care. As I mentioned, health services is a medical clinic, and that's staffed by healthcare professionals, including physicians, nurse practitioners, dietitians, psychiatrists, and nurses. We generally have physical therapy. We've put that on pause for this fall as we are focusing our medical services on acute care, injury, and respiratory care this fall. We hope to bring back physical therapy in the spring. This department is also responsible for addressing community health concerns that arise, such as influenza, COVID, and other communicable diseases. We sponsor a number of outreach flu clinics, so you'll see that beginning as early as next month. So make sure your student looks for those social media marketing for that. We'll have at least 10 of them outreach. The Center for Wellbeing has remained open all last semester and throughout the center. We have continued to see patients. We've conducted COVID testing, and we work very closely with the Minnesota Department of Health in identifying and monitoring those students who have tested positive for COVID. Health Services is also responsible for compliance with state and federal mandates, including ensuring that HIPAA, privacy, and immunization mandates are adhered to. Your student will most likely be 18 when they start this fall or soon thereafter, and that means that their medical and mental health information is protected health information and cannot be shared with you or really anyone without their written consent. So just to keep that in mind, that if you called the medical professional that they may have seen or their mental health professional, they would not be able to even let you know that we have seen them. However, if, as I think Leah had mentioned, if there's an emergency, we will be reaching out to you and letting you know what's going on. If it's even where they're acutely ill, we'll ask that student, would you like us to reach out to your parent or guardian? The medical care received in the Center for Wellbeing is billed to the student's health insurance company. Any remaining balance is then placed onto their student account. So make sure that they come to campus with their health insurance card. Counseling services, health promotion, and violence prevention services are all covered under the student health fee. Counseling and psychological services provides the mental health for our students through short-term therapy, including one-on-one individual counseling, group therapy, psychoeducational groups, community referrals, and outreach education. We also provide after-hours urgent care and crisis support, so students can access that support through the main number 651-962-6750. Our mental health support, we include 8 staff psychologists, 3 doctoral interns, and we've expanded to now 5 graduate practicum students. Along with, we have psychiatrists and mental health support on the medical end. If your student has ongoing mental health needs, say they're in ongoing therapy now, the therapy that we have at St. Thomas is really a short-term model. So we would encourage you to reach out and try to identify someone for ongoing therapy. Otherwise, they can certainly see one of our providers here, one of the mental health providers, and they will help identify somebody in the community that would best meet your students' needs. Health promotion and violence prevention is staffed by professional educators and peer educators who provide a multitude of outreach strategies that assist your student in developing healthy behaviors. You've been spending the last 18 years on helping them develop healthy behaviors. We just pick it up from where you've left off. Focus areas, we have a lot of them, but some of the main ones are around stress reduction, education around alcohol and other drug usage, healthy sleep behaviors. So we do a number of education in those topic areas as well as others. So whether your student needs assistance in medical or mental health care, coordinating their care with their health provider back home or a subspecialist, or are in need of education on the importance of restorative sleep, they'll have one phone number to call, one door to enter, and we'll make sure that they get the help and the care that they need. We look forward to supporting the well-being of your student and meeting them in the very near future. So thank you, and I'd like to now introduce my colleague, excuse me, Assistant Dean Jessie Langer. Jessie?
Thanks, Madonna. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessie Langer. I work here in the Dean of Students office, and my job is to oversee the student conduct process. I'm sure many of you think of student conduct as discipline or punishment for students, but punishment isn't our style here at St. Thomas. We are educators, and so the philosophy behind our student conduct process is to educate. And we get that word, educate, right from our mission statement. It says that we educate students to be morally responsible leaders who think critically, act wisely, and work skillfully to advance the common good. And it is my job and the job of others on this campus to hold our students accountable to that mission statement. And we hold our students accountable to this mission statement both on and off campus. Our convictions guide the student conduct process. Each conduct meeting is conducted with dignity and personal attention for the student to pursue truth about the incident. Students' choices are examined in terms of their values and the impact they have on other people. It's also examined in terms of the values of St. Thomas and the student's impact on the St. Thomas community. Conduct officers also discuss with the student what they can do to make things right again. Our convictions also guide our restorative approach to student conduct. Restorative justice approaches conflict with dignity and respect for everyone involved in an incident. It fosters meaningful dialogue between those who are harmed and those who cause the harm to create an understanding from all perspectives. We use a restorative approach in student conduct meetings and in restorative circles and conferences conducted after an incident harms a person or the community. We value the diversity each person brings to the St. Thomas community. Restorative justice helps us educate members of our community about the value, diverse experiences that each person brings in order to create a just and inclusive community. Our culture of care at St. Thomas values the well-being of every member of the community. We take bias-motivated incidents very seriously at St. Thomas. Students can report bias incidents to the Dean of Students office or to public safety. Students can also report bias incidents anonymously using an online portal located on the One St. Thomas webpage. The Diversity Action Response Team evaluates bias incidents to determine the most appropriate way to respond. Options will include educational conversations or programs, restorative circles, or student conduct follow-up. We also take reports of sexual misconduct seriously at St. Thomas. Students are strongly encouraged to report all incidents of sexual misconduct to the Title IX coordinator, public safety, or a multitude of other campus officials. All students are required to view the Not Anymore sexual misconduct training. We also have programming for students about what it means to be an active bystander, including methods to intervene with situations that might lead to sexual misconduct. St. Thomas strives to create an environment free of harassment. So that's an overview of the harder stuff at St. Thomas. Our processes are driven by our mission and our convictions. We educate our students to think critically about their choices, how they align with their own values and the values of St. Thomas, and the impact they have on our community. We educate our students to act wisely, to treat everyone with dignity and respect, and value diverse experiences and perspectives. And we educate students to work skillfully to create a just and inclusive community that cares for and values the well-being of each member and advances the common good. I'd like to turn it over to Linda Bachman, our Dean of Students.
Great. Thanks so much, Jesse. And in just a moment, we are going to start the Q&A portion of our webinar. I do want to take a chance to give you a few reminders before that. And the first one is to remind you that families do have the option to purchase tuition insurance. There is extensive information about this on our business office page. And the tuition insurance exists for a student who needs to withdraw from all classes for medical reasons, and gives a very healthy reimbursement for both tuition and room and board. And I just always highlight this for families because I want to make sure you know that option is there for you. In my role, I am often the person who, if a student has had to withdraw for medical reasons, that I will work with the parents and the student. And those are always hard conversations. It's hard to see a family going through a difficult time. It's always also difficult to see the financial impact that hits some people with that. So again, this covers pre-existing conditions, so I want to make sure you're aware of that. And I would encourage you to go to the business office page and learn more about the tuition insurance in case that is something that you wish to purchase. It does need to be purchased before the 14th day of classes. I also always like to encourage our parents and loved ones to engage in conversations with your students before they start college. And I'm very excited about the family handbook that Leah Fulton highlighted for you this evening. I really hope you'll take time to go through it. You will see conversation starters in there. So conversation starters for talking to your student about relationships as they navigate in new ways as young adults. Conversation starters around alcohol and college. So for example, one of those might be, before you get to college, have you considered how you might respond if you get in a situation where other students around you are drinking and that's not a choice that you want to make? For a student to have thought about that ahead of time is very helpful for them when they find themselves, in that situation. There's conversation starters in there about mental health. So certainly if you have a student who has a mental health issue right now, for them, I'm guessing many of you are talking to your students about this, but setting up what that support plan is going to be as they transition to St. Thomas. And as Madonna mentioned, we have so many resources in the Center for Wellbeing. So becoming aware of those resources, perhaps talking to your student about if you're having a tough time, can we talk about how, if I reach out to you or you reach out to me, what our communication plan might be. And often that's helpful to have that conversation now before a more challenging situation arises. So I hope you'll do that. There's some recent research that tells us, believe it or not, our college-age students want to have these conversations with their parents. I think a lot of parents perhaps think, oh, my child doesn't want to talk to me about this. And there's actually research that tells us they actually do. They actually want you to ask, and they want to hear some guidance from you. So you will continue to play an important role in their lives. It will just be different, but still very important. And lastly, I want to make sure you all know that Welcome Days begin September 3rd. Your students will get communication about Welcome Days from their orientation leader, but it's important to put it on the calendar now because Thursday, September 3rd, we have engagement planned for them for 5 hours that day, and we want them to hold that time and set it aside. It's a required orientation time for them. There will also be some more virtual engagement throughout the weekend before they move in. So Thursday, September 3rd is virtual. It's never our first choice, but of course we're all very aware of how we need to navigate as safely as possible right now. And so we have decided that that day will be a virtual engagement day for your students. All right, so with that, I'm going to ask our panelists if they would please all turn their cameras back on. And now is a great time for you all to submit questions that perhaps have not been answered yet. And so I do see a couple coming in. And the first one I'm going to ask Madonna to address. And it's a question about tuition insurance. I'm sorry, it's a question about health insurance. Just your recommendation around using family health insurance versus purchasing insurance through St. Thomas.
Okay, thanks. And we actually don't provide a university-based medical insurance for our students. So we want the students to use the family insurance, and we do have contracts with all of the major players in the area in terms of Health Partners, Allina, Mayo, so that we are considered in network. So my answer to that would be is that your student will need to have a family insurance plan or one to go on the exchange and purchase an insurance plan through that modality. And then to also just make sure that they have an insurance card when they come. Thanks.
Thanks, Madonna. And Leah, if you can answer, there's a couple people wondering how to access the family handbook.
Yes, so Josh did put that in the chat and I just responded in the Q&A. So hopefully everyone sees that link. But it's at, well, reading the URL may not be that helpful. But if you want to reference the chat or the Q&A, you can see it. You can see that link in both places.
And I would just add to that the link is also accessible on our family orientation page. So we have a family page that you can access the handbook there also. So, and you can always email us if you can't find it. We're happy to directly send you the link. Madonna, this question I am going to direct to you because it is around, it's related to health and safety. And it's asking about what our testing policies related to COVID-19 are. So specifically, it's asking, are students tested for COVID prior to coming to campus?
Thanks, it's a good question. And as with everything around COVID, things change on a daily basis. So as of today, you know, there is a national shortage of supplies. And so we want to be good stewards of scarce resources and also making sure that we're doing what's logical and sensible. And so we're using the CDC and Minnesota Department of Health guidelines in that we are testing students who have symptoms of COVID or have had another need for being tested. We are not doing mass testing at this point. That, you know, those scarce resources are needed nationwide. We have made some significant adjustments in how we do this because the turnaround time was quite lengthy when we were using a national laboratory. We switched to the University of Minnesota / Mayo labs, and we now usually get the results back within 24 to 48 hours. So we have a really good process in place. But we are not doing mass testing at this time, but we are paying close attention to anything that's new and scouring the literature daily. So I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Madonna. And President Sullivan, I'm going to direct this question to you. And there's a couple questions coming in asking about what the classroom will look like this semester, what's our approach going to be with in-person and online?
Thank you. Well, your students should have received their class schedule, and I'll tell you kind of from a macro level so your students know about the modality of their particular classes. But for all undergraduates, about 22% of our classes will be totally online. About 62% of our classes will have some in-person component and some online component. So we call those hybrid. So for example, it may be that some subset of the class comes to class on one day, another subset on another day, or maybe some class sessions are held in person and some are held online, but various combination of in-person and online. And then 16% of our classes are in-person only. We did do a calculation, and I believe it's 98% of our undergraduate students do have either some hybrid or some in-person. We only have like 2% who are all of their classes are all online. I did see some questions in the Q&A about, well, what if you have an in-person class and you need to do an online class, and will there be options for commuter students or people who don't want to do all of their online work in their dorm room? Our library will be open. Our Anderson Student Center will be open. And we are really prioritizing all of our space on campus for student, either classroom space or study and other space. So I think there will be opportunities for students to find quiet spaces on campus to do their online work when required.
Thank you. And there's a question that came in, and I'm actually going to answer this one really quickly. It's related to if we need to close the residence halls due to COVID-19, will you receive a housing refund? And so I do want to just proactively let families know that the answer is that would be prorated if the university closes. And that information is also on our business page if you want to read about that more in detail. Also to let you know, if a student needs to go home to quarantine or isolate, that is another situation where we would prorate that period of time where a student needs to go home. And Madonna, perhaps you can take 1 minute. A couple questions have come in just to talk about how we're handling quarantine and isolation with our students.
Okay, good. Yes, we've been working for months now to kind of put a plan in place, and it's a really solid one. And that what we've done is we've reserved one entire building will be for quarantine, and then we have several other locations, 2 apartment buildings that we're using for isolation. So as the testing comes in and once a student is being tested who has symptoms, they will ask to be, to really stay in the room until we get those results back as much as possible, wearing a mask, of course. Once, if a test does come back positive, if they're able to go home, that would be the first preference. Even though we're good at taking care of young folks, they don't get the care to the degree that they'd probably get at home. So that would be our first choice, whether it's isolation or quarantine. So again, isolation is for those that are ill. So those that are tested positive need to be isolated for 10 days following their onset of symptoms, plus another 24 hours after any fevers have resolved. If they cannot go home, we do have isolation facilities available with meals or at least food available to be provided to them. Quarantine, as I mentioned, a building that we've identified that they would be asked to quarantine in, and that is for 14 days. And again, they will be asked to stay in that building. They would be allowed to go out for the guidelines, say from Center for Disease Control, around medical appointments, etc. And then their nutrition services would also be supported there. So that's how we have designed the process right now. We've also are implementing, we're not quite there yet, is being a proxy for the Minnesota Department of Health, and that we will do our own contact tracing for those that are community members, because we feel that we know the students best, we know the community best, we can get to them quicker, we can make sure that they get into isolation and quarantine much more rapidly than a large organization like MDH could. So that will be fully underway within the next 1 to 2 weeks. So we feel really confident that we're going to be ready to handle incidences. And as students come back, we are anticipating that we will have, positives. We've had positives throughout the summer. It's in our community, so we'll expect to see it. And what's important is that we feel we have the infrastructure and the systems in place to be able to monitor and support your student as they come back to campus. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Madonna. And this next question, I'm going to ask both Patricia and Father Larry to respond to. And it's a question that understandably is likely on a lot of parents' minds, as well as students. The question is, how will you work to provide opportunities for new students to meet others safely and to get to know other students? I know this will look different, but curious what the plans are. And I know both of your departments have been working hard to think about how students will engage this fall. So if you can take a couple minutes to address that, that'd be great. Father Larry, do you want to go first?
Sure, thank you, Linda. I'll be happy to do that. Understandably, we've had to pivot and do some readjusting in terms of the programming that is normally a part of campus ministry. For instance, our retreat programs, typically in years past, we've had 10 or 12 retreats, many of them overnight. We've decided we cannot do that this year for the safety of our students. We will be doing smaller gatherings and retreats on weekends. I think we have 2 already planned for new students in September, and these would be a meal together for a small group and then a time of discussion. I've asked all of the staff at campus ministry to take a look at how we might do more personal work with our students and small group work with our students, as opposed to the large group gatherings that we've been used to in the past.
Yeah, I'll follow that up. So in addition to working with Student Diversity Inclusion Services, I also work with the teams for our Campus Life, which is our part of the campus that does a lot of our programming and our student clubs and activities. In addition, I also work with the Anderson Student Center and our Create Space. If you've taken a tour of the campus, you've seen that. We have been working all summer long on creating exciting programming for you. We are keeping most in mind the safety and well-being of the students. So we are planning to do some on-campus programming, but we also understand that not every student will feel safe to come to campus, and some of our students will probably want to remain at home, and that's okay. They're still part of the St. Thomas community. So we're planning on doing our programming, small group gatherings on campus. We'll be providing live Zoom links so that students can participate from their residence hall, or they can also participate from home. And the idea is to create community and be able to bring our students together. We're hoping for a nicer, warmer fall, so that we can allow to do some programming out in the football field, on our quad, and different areas on campus where we can have some larger gatherings. We are going to be very closely maintaining social distancing, asking our students to come wear face covering and mask when they're inside the building, and asking all of us to do a community of care so that we're caring for each other so that we can continue to be together. So that's sort of what our messaging is for our students, so that if we can abide by doing those things for each other, we can continue to be together. We are going to be training all of our student leaders or student programmers on how best practices to do programming for our students so that we can continue to do programming. Our residence halls are working on doing programming in their floors, and we're going to be doing some programming in the Anderson Student Center and some of the spaces on campus. And all of that is, your students should be able to get into our Tummy link as they become part of the our systems, and your students should be able to see all the programs that we have. And we're making sure that all programs are also available via Zoom, so that the students can participate whether they are on campus or whether they are doing that from residence halls and or at home. So we're learning every day, and we're going to try our best every day to do that, but we do want to continue to build a strong, sound St. Thomas community. And even in these hard times, we want to make sure that our students feel like the Tommies that they are already.
Thank you, Patricia. I do want to also acknowledge for our students who will not be living on campus and who are commuter students, I want to make sure you know that we have very active support and programming through off-campus student life for our first year commuter students. And so similar to what Patricia and Father Larry said, that group is planning for how we can best engage our commuter students this fall. And I will add that our Residence Life team, the staff there, they are all in planning mode for how we are going to welcome students and figure out ways to enjoy time together on campus as in a safe manner. So we're facing the same challenges that every college campus is facing. We're going to embrace it. And I will tell you, I have a college student returning to another college for her sophomore year. And we've been talking a lot about how to make the most out of the year ahead. And I've been talking to her about mindset, and that doesn't negate challenges. That doesn't negate and recognize challenges, but it is a piece of how do we all be in this together and make the most out of the year ahead of us. So, and I know that the staff and faculty at St. Thomas, we will do that. And so will our students. We have phenomenal students who are excited to come back to campus. So I'm looking at our time, and I want to honor time because we really appreciate that you all have carved out time with us this evening. There are a couple questions in here. I do want to just let you know, Residence Life, people are asking about move-in. Your students will all get individual communication about move-in if they haven't already. You can also email the Residence Life office with specific questions, but a real quick general answer is that students who live close to campus are going to be invited to move in bigger items before the big move-in weekend. Not come stay with us, but come drop off some big items to make the move-in process go more smoothly. Out-of-state students, you will get a special communication about your move-in time. So the basic answer is to contact Residence Life if you have questions, but the primary move-in weekend will occur over Labor Day weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and starting with our out-of-state students earlier. So hold that weekend for move-in. All right. We really appreciate all of you being with us. Some of you have probably been with us for 5 webinars. For some of you, this may have been your first. And I do want to highlight that all of the webinars are recorded on our family orientation page. Feel free to go back and listen to any of those at any time. I also want to make sure you know that we welcome you to reach out to us with questions. We appreciate that more than ever, this is a unique time to be moving a student to college and for students to be starting college. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. We welcome your questions. And Josh just put up some contact information for all of you. So those are some emails that you are welcome to reach out. And I would like to thank all of our panelists for being with us this evening. We wish you all a great evening, and we look forward to meeting you as your student journeys on at St. Thomas, and I truly can't wait to welcome your students to campus this fall. So thanks to everyone, and have a great evening.